upbeat, friendly music starts and fades into the background. Hey, cat moms and cat dads, let's paint a picture. Your senior cat, the one who usually spends his days as a professional pillow inspector, suddenly has a new lease on life. He's eating everything that isn't nailed down. He finishes his bowl, your other cat's bowl, and then gives you a look that says, "Is that all you've got, peasant?" You're probably thrilled, right? Thinking, "Wow, my old boy's got his spark back." But hold on. What if that spark is actually an internal forest fire? What if your cat isn't thriving, but desperately trying to fuel a body that's gone haywire? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a super common, super sneaky, and super serious condition in older cats. We're going to decode this bizarre behaviour and reveal the danger that so many loving owners miss. Before we start, drop the name of your forever hungry senior cat in the comments below. Let's give these golden years gluttons a shout out. First, let's talk about the typical senior cat vibe. You know the one. They've earned their PhD in napping. Their hobbies include staring at walls, judging your life choices from the top of the bookshelf, and demanding cuddles on their own, very specific terms. A sudden, dramatic change in this established routine is always a big deal. Think about it. If your sweet, quiet grandma suddenly started training for a marathon and yelling for pizza at 3 a.m, you wouldn't just say, "Oh, she's just getting older." You'd be concerned. It's the exact same thing with our cats. They are creatures of habit, and a drastic shift from professional sleeper to frantic food monster is their way of waving a giant red flag, and it's our job as their loyal staff to notice it. So let's start with the great deception. The number one reason hyperthyroidism goes unnoticed for so long is because its main symptom looks like a good thing. A huge appetite. We spend so much of our cats' lives worrying if they're eating enough, trying to tempt them with different foods when they're picky. So, when our old friend suddenly becomes a voracious eater, our first reaction is relief and joy. We think they're feeling fantastic, full of vigour and vitality. We happily fill their bowl again and again, proud that we're providing so well for them in their twilight years. We brag to our friends, "Fluffy is eating like a kitten again." This false sense of security is the disease's most clever disguise. It makes us, the loving owners, completely miss the fact that something is terribly wrong. Behind this deception is a tiny, butterfly-shaped gland in your cat's neck. Meet the thyroid. Think of the thyroid as the engine management system for your cat's entire body. It produces hormones that control their metabolism, basically the speed at which their body runs. When it's working properly, the engine hums along at a nice steady pace. It burns fuel efficiently, keeps the temperature just right, and ensures all systems are go for a long, happy life of napping and demanding treats. It's a delicate, finely tuned instrument that governs everything from heart rate to energy levels. In a healthy cat, this little gland is the unsung hero, quietly keeping the whole biological factory running smoothly. But what happens when the factory manager goes rogue? That's where our story takes a dark turn. The villain of our story is called hyperthyroidism. The hyper prefix means overactive. In simple terms, a small, benign tumour usually forms on the thyroid gland, causing it to go into overdrive and produce way too much thyroid hormone. Suddenly, the calm, efficient engine manager has been replaced by a crazed maniac screaming, "Faster! More! Now!" The body's metabolism, once a gentle hum, is now a screaming, out-of-control engine redlining at full blast 24/7. This hormonal flood sends every single system in your cat's body into a frantic, chaotic state. It's like putting rocket fuel in a regular car. Sure, it'll go fast for a little while, but it's going to burn out and fall apart in the most spectacular and devastating way. This is not a burst of youthful energy, it's a system on the brink of collapse. Now we get to the main event, the Hunger Games Feline Edition. Why in the world is your sweet, dignified senior suddenly a bottomless pit for food, inhaling their kibble like a vacuum cleaner, and then trying to steal the dog's dinner? It's not because they've suddenly developed a new passion for competitive eating. The truth is much more alarming. Their body has turned into a runaway train, a furnace without a thermostat. Hyperthyroidism cranks their metabolism up to an impossible frantic speed. Every single bite they take is instantly incinerated to fuel this out-of-control internal engine. So when they're screaming at you for more food, looking at you with those wide, desperate eyes, they are not being greedy. They are genuinely, desperately starving from within. Their body is literally consuming its own muscle mass for fuel, and their only instinct is to eat, eat, eat in a futile attempt to keep up. It's a tragic paradox, surrounded by food, yet wasting away. This brings us to the most classic, and frankly, the scariest sign, the disappearing cat trick. Your cat is eating more than ever before, maybe twice, or even 3 times their normal amount, yet they are losing weight. This should set off alarm bells louder than a fire truck. When you pick them up, they feel lighter, bonier. When you pet them along their back, you can suddenly feel every single vertebra of their spine in sharp detail. Their hip bones might start to protrude. This is called muscle wasting, and it's happening because their supercharged metabolism has already burned through all their fat reserves and has now started cannibalizing their own muscle tissue for energy. No amount of food can stop it. If your cat is eating like a horse but looks like a skeleton, it is a medical emergency. And do not wait. This is one of the most definitive signs that something is seriously wrong. Alongside the hunger, you'll likely notice another bizarre behavior. Your cat has basically moved in next to the water bowl. This is called polydipsia, a fancy term for excessive thirst. The out-of-control metabolism is making their whole system, including their kidneys, work overtime. This causes them to lose more fluids through their urine, leading to dehydration. To compensate, they drink. And drink. And drink. You'll find yourself refilling the water bowl constantly, maybe even finding them trying to drink from the toilet or the faucet. It's easy to dismiss this thinking, oh, it's good that he's staying hydrated, but a sudden and dramatic increase in water consumption is never normal. It's another key piece of the hyperthyroid puzzle, and it points to a body that's struggling to keep up with the internal chaos. And what happens when a cat drinks a ton of water? Well, what goes in must come out. Get ready for the litter box to become a crime scene. A huge increase in urination, or polyuria, is the direct result of that excessive thirst. You'll notice the litter clumps are suddenly gigantic like softballs. You might be scooping the box twice as often and still feel like it's always full. In multi-cat households, you might even start blaming the wrong cat. Sometimes the need to urinate becomes so urgent that a cat who has been perfectly litter trained their entire life might start having accidents around the house. This isn't them being bad or spiteful. Their bladder is just filling up so fast that they literally can't make it to the box in time. It's another sign of a system in overdrive. Remember when your cat was a kitten and they had those wild bursts of energy we affectionately call the zoomies? Well, get ready for a comeback tour. Many owners of hyperthyroid cats report a sudden return of frantic, restless energy. Your 15-year-old cat, who normally sleeps 22 hours a day, is suddenly pacing the halls at 3 a.m., chasing invisible mice, and acting like they just drank a triple espresso. This isn't a sign of renewed youth. It's hyperactivity and restlessness caused by the excessive thyroid hormones stimulating their central nervous system. They literally can't relax. They can't settle down. This constant state of agitation is exhausting and stressful for them. Even if it looks a little bit funny to us, it's a wired, anxious energy, not a happy, playful one. That wired, anxious energy often manifests as a major personality change. Your previously sweet, cuddly cat might suddenly turn into a grumpy old tyrant. This is often described as irritability or aggression. They might hiss or swat at you when you try to pet them. They might become more demanding, more vocal, and less tolerant of other pets or people in the house. A key symptom here is yowling, not just regular meowing, but loud, mournful, seemingly random yowling, especially at night. It can be incredibly unsettling. This isn't your cat trying to annoy you. It's a direct result of the hormonal imbalance affecting their brain, causing anxiety, confusion, and sometimes even hypertension-related pain or discomfort. They are on edge, and they don't know why. Now it's time for some important myth-busting. The single most dangerous thing you can think when you see these signs is, "Oh, he's just getting old." This is a massive mistake. While these changes do happen in senior cats, they are not normal signs of aging. Aging is a gradual process. A healthy old cat might slow down, sleep more, maybe get a little arthritis. They don't suddenly develop the appetite of a black hole, lose a third of their body weight in a month, and start screaming at the walls. Attributing these dramatic symptoms to just old age is how this treatable disease is allowed to progress until it causes irreversible damage to the heart, kidneys, and other organs. Your cat isn't just getting old, your cat is sick and needs your help. Let's talk about your cat's appearance, specifically their fur. A healthy cat is a fastidious groomer. Their coat is their pride and joy, but a hyperthyroid cat often looks a mess. Their fur might become greasy, matted, patchy, and unkempt. You might notice excessive shedding or dandruff. This happens for two reasons. First, they just don't feel well enough to groom properly. They are so preoccupied with the feelings of hunger, anxiety, and restlessness that self-care goes out the window. Second, the metabolic chaos affects their skin and hair quality directly. So if your once pristine floof suddenly looks like they've been dragged through a hedge backward, pay attention. It's an outward sign of the turmoil going on inside. It's their coat of sadness. All right, let's talk about the less glamorous end of the cat, the digestive system. When the metabolism is in hyperdrive, the entire gastrointestinal tract speeds up too. Food is rushed through the system way too fast for nutrients to be properly absorbed. This often leads to two very unpleasant symptoms: vomiting and diarrhea. Your cat might start throwing up shortly after eating, not because the food is bad, but because their stomach is just overwhelmed and irritated. Similarly, they might develop chronic watery diarrhea. What goes in fast comes out fast, and often in a messy, unpleasant way. So if you're suddenly cleaning up more messes around the house, don't just blame a sensitive tummy. It could be another critical symptom that their internal engine is spinning dangerously out of control. Now we need to get serious. Of all the damage hyperthyroidism can do, the strain it puts on the heart is one of the most life-threatening. The constant flood of thyroid hormones forces the heart to beat much faster and more forcefully. All day, every day. This is called tachycardia. Over time, this intense, relentless workout causes the heart muscle to thicken, a condition known as hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. This can lead to the development of a heart murmur, high blood pressure, and eventually congestive heart failure. Your vet can often detect these changes during a routine exam. They might notice a rapid heart rate or a gallop rhythm. This is not something to take lightly. Untreated hyperthyroidism will eventually destroy your cat's heart. So, which cats are at risk for this condition? Is it something you need to worry about with your 2-year-old kitten? The answer is almost certainly no. Hyperthyroidism is overwhelmingly a disease of middle-aged and senior cats. The average age of diagnosis is around 13 years old, and it's extremely rare in cats under the age of 10. It affects male and female cats equally, and no specific breed has been shown to be more susceptible than another, though some studies suggest mixed-breed cats are more commonly affected. It is by far the most common endocrine or hormonal disorder we see in our older feline friends. So if you have a cat entering their golden years, this needs to be on your radar. It's a matter of when, not if. You should be looking for the signs. The good news is, diagnosing this isn't some complicated mystery that requires a team of specialists. It's actually very straightforward. If you report these symptoms to your vet, the first thing they'll want to do is a physical exam and some blood work. During the exam, they might be able to feel an enlarged thyroid gland in your cat's neck, which feels like a small lump, kind of like a pea under the skin. but the definitive diagnosis comes from a simple blood test that measures the level of the main thyroid hormone called thyroxine, or T4. In over 90% of cases, a cat with hyperthyroidism will have a significantly elevated T4 level. It's a clear, objective piece of data. There's no guesswork involved. The blood test tells the whole story, confirming your suspicions and paving the way for treatment. Okay, we've spent a lot of time on the scary stuff. Now let's take a deep breath and talk about the best part. This disease is highly treatable. This is not a death sentence, especially when it's caught early. Hearing the diagnosis can be scary, but it's important to know that there are multiple, highly effective treatment options available that can manage the disease and give your cat many more happy, healthy years. You and your vet can work together to choose the best path forward for your cat, your lifestyle, and your budget. The goal of treatment is to get those hormone levels back to normal, stop the metabolic madness, and turn your frantic, starving cat back into the calm, dignified companion you know and love. There is so much hope here. The most common and often the first line of treatment is daily medication. This usually comes in the form of a tiny pill called methimazole that you give your cat once or twice a day. This drug works by blocking the production of excess thyroid hormone. It doesn't cure the disease. The tumour is still there, but it manages the symptoms beautifully. The challenge, as any cat owner knows, can be pilling a cat. But there are options. The medication can sometimes be compounded into a flavoured liquid or even a transdermal gel that you just rub on the inside of their ear. This method requires lifelong treatment and regular blood tests to make sure the dose is correct, but it's a very effective and affordable way to manage the condition and restore your cat's quality of life. What if pilling your cat feels like trying to disarm a tiny furry bomb? There's another option, a prescription diet. There's a special therapeutic food that is severely restricted in iodine. Why iodine? Because the thyroid gland needs iodine to produce thyroid hormone. No iodine, no excess hormone production. It's that simple. By feeding this diet exclusively, and I mean exclusively, no other treats, scraps, or food of any kind, you can effectively starve the tumour of the fuel it needs. This is a great option for cats who are difficult to medicate or have other health issues. The downside is its strictness. If your cat sneaks a bite of the dog's food or catches a mouse, it can throw their levels off. But for the right cat in the right household, it can be a lifesaver. Finally, let's talk about the gold standard, the closest thing we have to a cure, radioactive iodine therapy, or I-131. It sounds way scarier than it is. Here's how it works. The cat gets a single simple injection of radioactive iodine. Since the overactive thyroid tumour is the only part of the body that aggressively absorbs iodine, the radiation is delivered directly to the abnormal tissue, destroying it while leaving all the healthy tissue unharmed. The cat has to stay at a special facility for a few days until they are no longer radioactive, but after that, they come home cured. In over 95% of cases, one treatment is all it takes. No more pills, no more special food. It has a higher upfront cost, but over the lifetime of the cat, it can often be the most effective and even the most economical choice. So what's the most important takeaway from all of this? It's that you are your cat's first and best line of defense. Vets are amazing, but they only see your cat for about 15 minutes once a year. You see them every single day. You know their quirks, their habits and their routines. You know the specific spot they like to nap in. You know the exact decibel level of their "I am starving" meow. Because you know what's normal for them, you are uniquely qualified to spot when something is abnormal. Don't ever dismiss your gut feeling. If you notice your senior cat is acting weird, eating more, drinking more, losing weight, yowling at nothing, you are not crazy. You are being a brilliant, observant and loving cat parent. Trust those instincts and make that vet appointment. You could be saving their life. So there you have it. That ravenous appetite and wild energy in your senior kitty isn't them magically discovering the fountain of youth. It's a cry for help from a tiny, overworked gland in their neck. But now you know the signs. Now you can be their superhero. You are the person who knows them best. And noticing these changes is the first and most critical step. We put up with them knocking things off shelves, sleeping on our faces, and demanding breakfast at 4 a.m. because we love these furry little weirdos more than anything. And being their health advocate is the most important part of that love. If this video helped you or made you think, please boop that like button for all the senior kitties out there. Don't forget to subscribe and share this with a fellow cat parent. You might just save a life. And for our final question, what's the weirdest old cat behaviour you've ever seen? Let's share our hilarious and heartwarming stories in the comments below. Thanks for watching and give your cat a cuddle from us.